everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. And we're guesting this morning with St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Mr. Mayor.
Hello, Richard. How are
Good
you?
to see you. We're taping this show on Valentine's Day, February 14th. So happy Valentine's Day to
you.
folks out there. Thank you. So, and again, Tuesday, Feb 14, annual city meeting, Vermont Town Meeting Day, just what, three weeks away?
3 weeks away.
Interesting. So again, no contests in the city. Marie Bissett running for re-election in Ward 3, and Trudy Coffey will be the new Ward 4 city councilor, succeeding Mike McCarthy, who's not running for re-election. You're in between your third term. Just almost 5 years as mayor at this point.
Exactly. Yep.
Interesting. So no, I guess the big item for city voters, the budget. Mr. Mayor, you pretty comfortable with what you came up with?
Well, I wouldn't say comfortable.
Boy, of course, you took a grand listed, as we've talked about, on the Gil-Tabor complex.
Right, and that's the thing that
That's
really
a
hits
biggie.
home with us. Lost about $183,000 in value.
Wow.
Well, in actual tax value.
Tax value.
In terms of grand list, $7.5 million.
Wow.
It takes a lot of homes to make that up, and we don't have the ability to.
Yeah.
Some other stuff is coming online, but still not enough at this stage.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough. The other big issue relative to the budget, education-wise, is our CLA, our common level of appraisal, has dropped significantly due to the sort of the home buying rush, if you will, during COVID.
I got to think a lot of communities, probably even most communities, or a lot of them, probably in the same ballpark with that, or.
Right. I was on a meeting last week. Excuse me. With colleagues from across northern Vermont, the 6 northern counties, and not everyone, but many of their communities as well are looking to do a reappraisal. The difficulty here is that there's not enough people to do what's needed.
Right, I've seen stories on that, so good luck finding a reappraisal firm, huh?
So what I don't know, what we don't know is that what is the impact of that? If we can't get a reappraisal done for 3 or 4 years, what's that going to mean for taxpayers? And once again, this is a bigger issue with the education budget than it is with the municipality budget.
Right.
So,
and of course, education on the tax bill you get is typically about 3/4 of that tax bill, municipal about
Exactly.
1/4.
So there's an unknown there. I haven't seen anything from the school yet as to what their tax rate's going to be,
Wow.
but that should be coming out any day now.
Huh. So again, if you can't get a reappraisal firm, if the city needs a reappraisal, I mean, you just, is there anything you can do?
I think there's a lot of discussions going on at the state level as to what Band-Aid approach can happen to address the situation. In conversation with the individual both you and I know is Jim Levy.
Yeah.
And I thought Jim had a very good suggestion, and that is why don't we just take, until we can do an official one, do a 20% increase across the board on all properties.
Huh.
I haven't really looked into that closely, but, I think it's fair. And if you have appeals, you can still appeal, but I think that would bring the CLA back into compliance to some extent to hold us over till you find some. But I don't know if we can't find anyone, if we're going to be penalized, if you will, for not having the 80 or above in terms of the CLA, 80%. So I'd be curious to see what our legislature decides to do, if anything.
Because as you said, boy, I bet there are a bunch of communities in pretty much the same boat as St. Albans, I would think.
No doubt, there's many.
Interesting. Speaking of the Gil-Tabor complex, of course, U.S. Customs and Immigration Services are now vacant. Any sign of life, any sign of future life to that building?
No, we haven't heard anything from the developer. I don't know of any interested party at all. So yeah, it's, we'd like to build a relationship with the developer, but at the same time, we just haven't had much interest. I think what a lot of rumors floating is housing. The complex would make for good housing.
Yeah.
Or multi-tenant scenario. Maybe there's.
Yeah.
maybe there's some other uses, but yeah, no activity whatsoever.
And as you mentioned before, we talked about before, the railroad building, as in soon to be vacant, is the
vacant
railroad
now.
dispatch center, are there?
Dispatch center has moved to their new building
They
down
have
off in the backside of
Wow.
the former Fonda site.
Yeah,
So they are up and running. City manager and myself are supposed to get a tour here
Huh.
at some point. We have to coordinate that, but
the old railroad building, is there nobody in there? Is
no one's in the railroad
Wow.
building.
Wow,
So
just a windows, just a classic building, but boy, a little hard to picture finding a future uses for that
yeah,
place.
no doubt. I mean,
Wow,
housing's always at the top of the level.
yeah.
Whether or not that's the highest and best use, I'm not sure, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, I think it has like 14-foot high ceilings,
Right.
which is almost double anything around the area.
Yeah,
So it'll be interesting to see what discussions flow from that. So, but right now there's none at this stage. I
interesting.
mean, and just to make a note that
Yeah.
they just vacated 2 weeks ago. So I
Right.
mean, there's and the transition appears to have gone well. You always wonder about technology and them having the access, them being the rail dispatch,
Right,
having what they need to run their operation. But I didn't hear of any glitches, so.
that's good. They weren't, how much space were they using in the railroad
Yeah,
building anyway? I
Nothing
assume
on the
not
first,
too much.
nothing on the first floor.
Really?
Probably a good chunk, and I'm not that familiar with the building, but probably half of the second floor.
Really?
So,
Boy,
and they did take some other Genesee and Wyoming positions. I think like accounting or something along those lines
yeah.
are in the new building as well. So.
Tim, with your Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation hat, Beta Technologies, going to be making some use out of the old Energizer building. Is that process started or not?
Yeah, no, they've been through the permitting process. I
Yeah.
believe I heard they have all their permits in place. So now they'll
Yeah.
start doing some renovation of the space. I think they're looking at early spring to get some equipment in and start getting it set up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's about all I know at this stage.
And again, down the road, I'm sure we're talking some years, but how many employees possibly
Well,
up here?
My understanding is 10, 12 right now, early on,
Yeah.
growing to 60 to 100 over the next year or two, and then see where it goes from there.
Interesting. From your point of view, hopefully people they can find around here, is that realistic?
Well, we talk about this all the time, Richard.
Yeah.
I think the opportunity is pulling people off the interstate who are
Yeah.
headed south every day,
Yeah,
And hopefully-
a good point you've made a number of times.
and hopefully they choose to work closer to home.
Yeah,
You know, if people are traveling to Burlington from Enosburg or Richford or Sheldon, I mean, it's a lengthy commute. Even St. Albans, it takes an hour and a
Yeah.
half out of your day.
yeah,
I think for people who haven't heard, it's the average number of individuals from the county that get on the interstate to go to work is about 10,000,
wow,
and our workforce consists of 25,000. So
wow,
you know, 2/5
yeah,
of our workforce are leaving the county.
wow. You feel
But
like you're-
I would just say at the same time, we have about 4,500 coming in.
No, really.
So,
Interesting.
you know, the net out-migration is about, 6,000.
Interesting. You feel like you're making any progress? I mean, that sounds like such a good point to make. Feel like you're making any progress on
But
that
I know
front?
firsthand, I mean, I know that in City Hall, there's 2 individuals working at City
Yeah.
Hall who chose,
Huh.
one worked in Burlington, I think both worked in Burlington, and they both live here in St. Albans town.
Huh.
So they have made the transition. So I think we are, I don't have exact numbers on that, but just
Yeah.
as I run into folks, it's
Yeah.
interesting to learn what their story was.
Right. Back to March 7 annual city meeting. So the budget. Anything else of note on the warning that folks will be voting on? Any more TIFs?
No, not at this stage. we have the fire truck, our new fire truck, that's, cost is about $850. We split that between this year's budget and next year's budget. And we did that because the turnaround time for a new truck is, could be as long as 2 years.
Interesting.
So
Where
we
does
don't-
that truck, where will that truck come from? Is there a kind of a few manufacturers
Yeah,
out there?
I don't know. I want to say the Midwest, but I don't know that
Yeah.
for sure. But we,
Not China, though.
not China, no, slow boat from China. But we had, we had 850,000 on this ballot, and we learned that we don't have to make a down payment. We learned that we can pay when it comes in.
Oh, really?
So we chose to set aside half now at this time,
Yeah.
and it did reduce the budget a little bit. And then we'll pay half. We'll put the same thing in next year's budget as well.
Right.
So, but no, it's, it's, I think 5 cents, it went up 5 cents on the grand list.
Yeah.
In the past, we've been in that 1 to 2%, or cents, I should say. And a good chunk of that is making up for the INS building. So that's where the catch was. I think we're just barely over $1. And it would have been nice to, come in under $1, but
Yeah.
so, and we continue, we're moving forward, obviously, with the town on the police department.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if you've seen the ads that have been on TV.
I haven't seen them.
I thought they did a nice job, nothing long,
Huh.
15 seconds probably, promoting St. Albans and the recruitment of police officers.
Oh, really? No,
Yeah.
I haven't seen them. Huh.
So we'll see how those.
Again, the agreement on the on the police and, of course, the water sewer seem to be getting a lot of accolades. I'm sure there's skeptics to everything out there, but you're running into any, or really
No,
not anybody?
Maybe I don't hang around with the right crowd, Richard, but I've asked a lot of people when I'm out and about, and no one has questioned it.
Yeah.
To a person, they've all said it's about time.
Yeah.
This is a good deal for both city and town. It'll be nice to put this behind us. All that. No one has come up and said, got some concerns, and I'm sure there are.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
not naive
always
enough to
critics.
think that,
Sure.
and I don't do social media, so I don't know what the feedback has been.
And same with myself.
So,
But I'm sure you've got plenty of friends who at least monitor social media. You're not hearing, at least, that there's been
No.
negative stuff even on.
I've asked a couple of the council people,
Really?
and
Boy,
no.
that's amazing. If you're getting nothing negative on social media, that
and
says something.
I ran into Mitch Montang.
Ran into Mitch, in fact, at Norm Bluen's wake. In fact, talked to Mitch at some length the other day at Norm Bluen's
I saw
wake.
Mitch out. He was out to eat last Friday,
Yeah.
Saturday night, and Mitch says he hasn't heard anything.
Yeah.
He was in agreement with it. So,
Yeah.
So I can't. Once again, I can't imagine any decision is unanimous.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be out
Sure.
there that we'll
Oh,
hear from.
sure.
We know how
Yeah.
that works.
I'll be doing interviews with folks in some of the contested select board races around here. I'll be interested in the two incumbents on the select board who are being challenged, Jonathan Giroux, the chair, and Brendan Deso, by respectively David McWilliams and David Bray. Be interested. One of my first questions, and what about the city-town agreement? I'll be interested in what the challengers have to say
Yeah,
about that.
I'll be interested to see what Mr. McWilliams
Yeah.
has to say. I
Yeah.
haven't run into him to find out, but
Yeah.
Dave, he may be in agreement with it.
I think David's on, for folks, well, of course, they're not going to be seeing this show for a while. David McWilliams, I think, is on Linda Kirker's show tonight, or February
yes, yeah.
14th show, I think. I wouldn't have even known about this, but for VT Digger, I'm finally getting their stuff again. I went for months without getting, kind of your main news source in Vermont these days appears to be VT Digger in 7 days. Anyway, but it was a story by old friend Elodie Reed, the former Messenger reporter. And you're probably on top of this. First I had heard about it, but a looming strike at Dairy Farmers of America. That'd mean anything. And again, that story is probably a week old, so all DFA said was, hey, we're continuing negotiations, hope to reach an agreement. So there might have been new developments, but I think the date in question was right around town meeting day for, at least at the time I read the story, a looming potential strike.
Yeah, I don't have any details to share on that. Like you, I learned of it this week. I was in a meeting with Leon Berthium, the former CFO, CEO, I guess,
Right.
for the co-op.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a chance to, I didn't get a chance to ask him about it. But yeah, no, I was surprised when I heard. I knew they were a union shop,
Yeah.
but I was not aware of any activity going on relative to contract negotiations. So yeah, so it'd be interesting to watch that.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the issue, right? If they go on strike,
Yeah.
the milk has to move every day. I mean, that's why the co-op is open 24/7,
24/7.
365.
Wow.
So if it doesn't, it's going to put a strain on the infrastructure because they will need to transport that milk someplace. They'll need to go to Hood in Boston or some other outlet.
Yeah.
And so you're adding significant mileage onto the trucking
Yeah.
and the truckers, the operators. And whether there's enough, I don't know this for a fact, this is just my guess, is there enough trucking infrastructure to continue that flow of milk, considering that much of it will have to be exported outside of the state? That takes time, money, gas, obviously.
Yeah.
And whether they can get back in time to continue. And then there's regulations on how many hours a truck driver.
Right.
And they've always been short on truck drivers to begin with, who had CDL. So
Wow.
there's a lot of balls in the air, I think, when it comes to that conversation. And this is just my perception of it.
Yeah.
I think it'll be. I'd like to think that they're going to be working hard to finalize that and
Yeah, I'd
negotiate.
like to think that. Boy, when I saw that story, I couldn't even remember the last strike. I can't even think of the last
in
strike
anything,
around here. In
anything, yeah. I can't think of any.
Interesting.
Not that we have a lot of union shops.
Right.
You know, obviously you have the teachers,
Right.
the nurses.
Well, nurses, yeah. I
was
guess
that was close. I think they did a couple walkouts maybe or news
yeah,
conferences.
that was close at some
That
point.
was probably 6-8 years ago.
Yeah.
But that might be the last one.
Interesting.
So
Wow. Yeah, we'll certainly be watching that situation. Boy, the Messenger had a story again in their Feb 14 paper about the St. Albans' 15th St. Albans Winter Carnival. Is there some doubt about that, given a shaky snow cover right now? Are you picking up any? Messenger has a story on that today in the Feb 14 paper, of course.
I don't know what decision has been made, but when you look at today, 45 degrees and
maybe even a 50 tomorrow,
52,
maybe?
54 tomorrow, with a base that was never really that large.
Yeah.
I don't think we had much opportunity to make snow to begin with, just due to the weather.
Yeah.
So I don't know the outcome to that. That would be if someone thinks they're going to do something for the Winter Carnival, Winter Festival, then you may want to check in with the rec department.
Yeah, sounds like that might well be in some doubt at this point.
I got to believe
That's
after
tough.
tomorrow, there's not going to be a whole lot of snow on the ground.
Tough winter. Burlington's average annual snowfall in Burlington, and probably about the same for St. Albans, is about 80 inches or so.
Yeah, like-
Burlington's at about 37 right now.
Right. I
Good,
think
probably foot and a half below what it should be this time of winter.
I think I saw that. I've thought 78,
Yeah,
80
it's-
degrees,
yeah,
and
it's-
I heard on the news we were half of that. So,
Yeah.
but
Right.
as you know, Richard, we've had some large March
Oh, sure.
storms that
Yeah.
could bring. Not that you benefit a lot from a March storm in
Yeah.
terms of the economy, but
Yeah. No, you're right.
you know, but
And my main trip down south in April a couple of years ago, talk about lousy luck. I left right around April 1st to go down and catch my women's tennis in Charleston, South Carolina, men's golf in Hilton Head. Came back about 3 weeks later and had lousy snow on the Northway, some of the worst driving I've ever had,
Oh, yeah.
both ways. So, oh no, there can definitely be snow in
Yeah.
March and even some in April. Boy, tough winter. I'm embarrassed to say I've never been to what sounds like a beautiful city, Ottawa, Canada. Capital of Canada, the famous Rideau Canal, and I've gotten back into skating. In fact, I may skate after this show at Collins Pearly. The Rideau Canal. Have you done? You know Ottawa?
Yeah,
I trust.
no.
Boy, it closed. It hasn't been open one day. It just hasn't been cold enough, obviously.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend of mine
Wow.
at the rink.
Sounds like a great thing to do.
Oh yeah, it's a great
Sounds like a beautiful city. It's pathetic. I've never been there.
it's a great event for sure, and it's not an event; it's a destination.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was just talking. They were headed up school vacation, and they're second
really?
guessing that now because the canal is not open.
Yeah.
We were fortunate enough to go. I want to say probably 10 years ago, and the canal was frozen and thousands and thousands of people skating on it, and you
Wow.
can go for
Boy,
miles
miles
on end. I don't,
Miles.
I don't know the total distance, but and they clean it and put a
Right.
Zamboni out there at night and
Plenty of places to stop, get
yeah,
food,
stop,
whatever.
yeah, no, it's
warm. No, it
I-
sounds so cool.
if it does open next year, I recommend it. It's a great, and Ottawa's
Yeah.
only 3, and it's like going to Boston.
Right, it's pathetic. It's
know.
unbelievable. I've never. I've been to Toronto once. For all the times I've been to Montreal and Quebec City, and to add my embarrassment, having grown up on the New England coast near Boston, I've never been to Atlantic, Canada. Sounds like another tremendous
Yep.
place. Anyway,
No, I was going to
enough
say,
about me.
we have gone, we've gone to Ottawa and we've gone to Toronto in
Yeah.
recent years
Huh.
to see Red Sox and Bruins.
Oh wow.
Because it's so, I mean, Toronto's a little farther than Boston, but
Yeah.
Ottawa is the same distance, and the
Yeah.
savings on tickets is,
Oh,
you can save enough money to stay in a
Right.
hotel, and
Right.
by the time you're by the time it's said and done.
Yeah.
So we've done that a couple times. Utilize the Canadian cities to access the Boston market.
Yeah, sounds like a good trip. Speaking of kind of the soft winter, boy, some tough news coming out of Lake Champlain these days. Just in recent days,
Yeah.
3 fatalities from
Oh, ice
folks
fishing.
falling through the ice. Boy, it sounds like anybody getting out of the ice, it sounds crazy. I mean, it sounds like it's insane to even think about getting out on the ice.
And that's a conversation we had over the weekend. My son played hockey in Rouse's Point.
Really.
So we drove over
Huh.
Sunday, 11:30 in the morning, and the lake is still open.
Wow.
If you go on the Rouse's Point side,
Yeah.
there's no ice along the shore at all.
Wow. Yeah.
And you look back, and it's open back towards Alberg,
Yeah.
but there were still 20 or 30 people on the
Wow.
ice with open water,
Wow. Not far away.
150 feet away,
Wow.
and they're sitting there ice fishing
Wow.
with the open water just feet away.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And we and other parents we just shook our. I mean, it was
Yeah.
a topic of conversation.
I bet.
We just shook our heads and don't understand that. And that's. I'm not an ice fisherman, but
Yeah.
I would think there's many other places to go that could be a little more secure.
Yeah, I was in Burlington Saturday, went down to Perkins Pier, ate at the Seafood Shanty, decent place. Total open water on Lake Champlain
yeah,
from Perkins Pier. And that reminds me of my recent great all-train trip to Washington, D.C. and back going, you get a lot of Connecticut River on that trip. Open water on the Connecticut River. I mean, midwinter was seeing just a little ice along the shore. So, yeah, pretty soft
I was
winter.
talking to a friend of mine yesterday who he'll put his boat in this week.
Really?
And he said the lake is open from what we saw in Rouse's Point
Yeah.
all the way to Ticonderoga.
Wow, really?
And there's
Wow.
been years, right? There's been years where we've heard that the lake is totally frozen over.
Sure. In the old days, probably at least every other year
Yeah.
or so.
But
Wow.
he said you could take a boat from Rouse's Point
Wow.
all the way to Ticonderoga without an
Really?
issue.
Wow. How's the rink? I used to catch some summer music right by the rink in Rouse's Point. There's a nice athletic fields there and a nice pavilion. They have free music at times. How is that rink in Rouse's Point?
I was looking, as I sat there, I was sort of looking at it. It's, it's your pre-engineered steel building.
Yeah.
But activities, it was people coming and going all day long.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
but
where
that
they
gets
draw from.
plenty of use.
Yeah, it does get plenty of use. Yeah. Yeah.
Collins Pearly, they had a couple weeks with no public skating, but again, this week, public skating's back. Again, we're talking Feb 14, or I guess yesterday. So, boy, ice in Collins Pearly, I guess we have maybe another month or so, or am I even pushing it?
Yeah,
Probably maybe pushing it.
You're touching on all my conversations that I've
right?
had this week, Richard. I spoke to Jeff up at the rink, and he said 4 more weeks.
Yeah.
So that takes you to probably, March 10th, March 14th.
Was the Rotary Expo? Are they going to have their show? I haven't.
Yeah,
They'll have their big show soon after the ice is gone.
They're looking for vendors still, but yeah, they're scheduled to go.
Interesting. So for folks who, get your skating in the next few weeks, I guess. Indoor skating, I guess.
Right.
Anything, and again, back to the city-town agreement on policing. Again, St. Albans City PD will kind of retake command in the town on, July 1, 2024?
Correct.
Yeah, interesting. And again, I guess the hope is to hire about, 4 more officers before that time?
Yeah, definitely 4, if not
At
more.
At least 4?
Yeah.
Staffing for City PD, is that okay at this point?
We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're starting the process. It's a lengthy process.
Huh.
I'm not sure. I mean, by the time you do the police academy and all that, it can be 4 months, I think. By the time you go through all the entire process. So 4 months, it doesn't take long. 4 months go by.
Yeah.
Doesn't take long for a year and a half to go by.
Really. The water storage tank, does that work? Has that been done, ongoing, or not even started?
We're waiting for spring, so all the site work was done.
So this spring?
All the site work was done in the fall. Excuse me. And spring they'll start doing the tank. When that one's done, they'll renovate the other one for redundancy. But yeah, you'll see the tank going up, over the early spring and early summer.
And city voters, myself included, that was on the warning about a year ago, or maybe even 2 years ago. 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
that's a pretty big project.
Yeah. I just want to touch on
I've got a couple minutes, whatever.
the water sewer agreement. So I recused myself from the city perspective of moving forward because of my FCIDC job. But the impact there for a company like Peerless Clothing, when that affiliation fee goes away, that's $32,000 for Peerless. So I made that call, notified them. They were pleased with the...
But they were happy to hear that.
Yeah. So, and there are property homeowners that will... there was a lot of discussion about that a year ago, right, when they got their bill. So that goes away as well. So there'll be a number of happy individuals who are paying the affiliation fee. That it will goes to half in July,
right,
and then it goes away in July of '24 as well.
Okay. So. In fact, I think there was even litigation, or at least a bill in the legislature trying to get at the city for that. So anyway,
just quickly on that. So we had a RDC coffee, excuse me, down at the State House, and Lynn Dickinson, who was a sponsor of that bill, I joked with her. I said, "You can take that bill off the wall now, Lynn, because it's been addressed." So
interesting.
We laughed about it.
Boy, speaking of Lynn, and down to seconds, but boy, I guess it'll be Vermont State University will be the new name of the state. Boy, they're getting some grief about bagging their kind of regular libraries and going all digital.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah. If I was a student, I'm a book kind of guy. I would have been protesting myself, but
I agree with that.
Anyway, in a few seconds, any quick comment about anything else, Tim?
No, things are running smooth.
Downtown showing having still some life.
Yeah, people are excited. The Hangry Donuts open Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the most part right now. So and it's a great product. So yeah, kudos to them.
Okay, so stay off the ice, folks. Anyway, thanks to St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Again, annual city meeting coming up not far away, March 7. Thanks for watching us. Thanks to producer Alan Cunningham. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. See you next time. See ya.